Recording is on.
All right. All right. So I'll go ahead and get this started. First of all, thank you all for joining me today. Good to see some faces. I see Mike and Eric with us today on our partner side. Glad to have you. All of you, well, I know that all of your time is important and valuable. I am making some slight modifications. My webinars used to be about 45 minutes to an hour. I'm going to try and cut these down to 30 minutes just because they're just a little bit more digestible. Today we're going to be talking about OneCloud Mobile, and taking your team's mobile. So we're going to cover, a lot of the tools that can make life a little bit easier for some organizations. So with that said, I'll jump right into this. So my name is Ben Smuggis. My role within the organization is onboarding, product evangelism, dishwasher, whatever it takes around here to get the job done. I've had the honor of working for OneCloud for going on 16 years now. It's been an amazing journey. I started out in technology with OneCloud itself. I started out on our structured cabling side, learned a lot about the physical layers of networks, fiber optics, data cabling, building IDFs, MDFs, infrastructure, and was able to grow into our service field or service team, installing systems like Nortel, ComDial, Avaya, Vertical Wave, and eventually into the cloud. So, it's been a great ride, and it's given me a lot of opportunity to grow and learn. One thing I will say about this company is it does give you some flexibility to grow and learn. But with that said, what is OneCloud? So OneCloud is more than just a UCaaS provider. Our organization was established in 1984. At that time, there was a very large breakup of a dial tone carrier at that time, AT&T. And when it was broken up, there became some variety in the telecommunication side, specifically phone systems. At that point, it was pretty much only AT&T. So as we grew over the years, our deployments and things changed. We eventually grew into an organization called Telware, which is still one of the arms of our organization. They handle a lot of our infrastructure. So anytime you work with OneCloud, you also know that we have a whole team that does infrastructure. We're talking overhead paging, white noise, door contacts, CCTV, mounting TVs. If it comes to the physical layer of your network, we can handle it. But as OneCloud, as technology grew, we knew that there were some gaps in technology, especially as things moved to the cloud. We're talking about scenarios like POTS replacement, faxing, mass notification, and we wanted to be able to fill that void. And there was a big push 2020 to the cloud. And some of those on-prem PBX and companies weren't really moving there fast enough. And some of the logistics of things like licensing was just an absolute nightmare. If some of you are familiar with some of the older on-prem type PBXs, licensing was never any fun. So we started moving into the cloud. We used some other solutions at that time. We were dealing with Star2Star, which is now Sangoma. We worked with 3CX, and then we finally made the big leap to building our own cloud and our own UCaaS solution called OneCloud, as well as building out our software development side. So OneCloud itself, we are a software development company, but we are a communications company that grew into a software development company. So we have many, many years of experience providing these solutions. And as I mentioned, we provide, mass notification, we can provide POTS replacement, we can provide Teams, we can provide OneCloud Mobile, which we're talking about today, a few different flavors of CCaaS or contact centers as a service, and much, much more, including the fun buzzword right now, which is AI. So today's agenda, we're going to be talking about the problem with business mobility, right? So mobile communications lack control and visibility. We'll talk about what is OneCloud Mobile. How do you transform cell phones into a smart business line? We all have those apps. Apps are great, but there's kind of a low adoption rate there sometimes, and we'll dig into that. We will discuss the core features and business benefits, smarter control, tracking, and CRM connected calling. And then we'll talk about a real world use case. Talk about some savings, what it did for the organization, how it streamlined the communication, provided some better tracking. We'll discuss deployment and setup. Is this a difficult thing? No, not so much. We'll talk about the different types of applications. And then at the very end, I will open this up for a Q&A. The top 3 reasons that you're here today is control over mobile communications. So we'll learn how mobile phones tie into your unified communications, and your personal or company issued phones can seamlessly integrate into OneCloud as a UCaaS extension itself. We'll discuss increased visibility, so things like cost savings, capturing those calls and messages, reducing those carrier costs, which is huge for your accounting, or your COO wants to be able to have some better pricing options and understand what they're paying, and streamlining those communications, whether you've got somebody on some desk phones, on a web phone, and then you've got folks out in the field using cell phones, and then the simplified setup, smarter operations. See how easy OneCloud Mobile can scale across teams, providing you with enhanced visibility, quality assurance, and overall, with good QA, you have a better customer experience. So what are some of the problems with business mobility? So first of all, you've got dual systems. So most organizations, if you have company provided cell phones, or even some bring your own devices, things like that, you've got your on-prem PBX, or maybe your UCaaS system, where most of your day-to-day operations and business communication goes on. And then you have some folks over here on cell phones. You're hoping they're using the UC module or the app, but if they're not, that's fragmented communication. And from a OpEx perspective, you're kind of dealing with 2 different companies for your communication, or dealing with 2 different tools, and that leads to some fragmentation. You're dealing with a lack of visibility, so you don't have control over these numbers, such as if all of your numbers are on Verizon or T-Mobile or AT&T, you aren't able to really control them very well without contacting your carrier. On your in-house PBX you can, but then you don't have tracking. You can't get things like transcription, or even call logging, right? So it's hard to oversee those. You can log in, you can see the call history, but that's generally about it. And then, as I mentioned, from an OpEx perspective, your increased operational costs for your UCaaS system in-house, and then you're paying another vendor for your cell phone or cell phone service. So you're essentially have double the cost. It's a little bit harder to manage. You're trying to juggle these communications. Additionally, there is a lower adoption of mobile UC apps. So over 90% of mobile business calls went untracked and unrecorded. So some of the reasons for this is, bring your own device is it's becoming widely adopted, but there's some selectiveness, right? So some end users are selective in what apps that they choose to interact with. Everybody's going to get in and play with something like Teams because it shows that they're active, but maybe they're not going to use Teams for their calling, because now I've got to open it, I've got to find the app, and I've got to make the phone call. And that can be a challenge, especially when you're dealing with, let's say, a service team that's on the road out running service calls, or a salesperson. And when you open your phone and you look at it, a lot of these apps are really starting to look kind of the same. Everybody tries to pick their own color, their own brand, but you're either green or blue. And if I'm driving down the interstate, not always going to try and open that app. So from a business perspective, that's kind of hard, because now I don't have people utilizing the UC app or the app to make calls. I lose tracking. People are making calls on their personal cell phones. I might be losing potential customers or contacts, because now they have this person's direct telephone number to their personal cell and not a business line. You've also got some employees that are resistant to bring your own device policies, and a lot of them would prefer a separate work phone. The thing is that I think it's somewhere around 17% of companies provide work phones to their employees. A lot of folks are just uncomfortable putting a app on their cell phone. You put an app on their cell phone, they immediately think that you're tracking everything that they're doing. There's a lot of distrust there. And some organizations, if I am going to have a personal cell phone with some of my company's apps on said phone, a lot of companies, ours included, do like to have some software on that phone that has control over those business apps. In regards to if that employee leaves or something happens or there's a breach, they have the ability to go in and remove that information, right? That's important. And from a security standpoint, it's important to have that control. But individuals tend to be not so excited about putting those apps on those phones. So what if every business call or text, whether from a desk phone, mobile device, Connect client, web phone, Salesforce integrator, whatever, can be captured and recorded all within one place? The easy way to do that is with OneCloud Mobile. Now, OneCloud Mobile turns any compatible phone, company-owned or bring your own device, into a OneCloud extension, streamlining communication. A little bit of a backstory on like mobile and the mobile journey. 6-7 years ago, LTE failover was a big deal, right? There's a lot of things like Cradle Points that were out there, and we had some customers. Let's just say that you're a takeout joint, and you're in a strip mall, and it's Friday night, game starting, and your internet goes out. Well, you're kind of dead in the water, right? If you, depending on your system, you're not receiving phone calls, but your point of sale system isn't working anymore. Analog lines are a thing of the past. So your point of sale system doesn't have an analog line. So what are you going to do? Well, LTE failover was a great choice. So we had quite a large amount of adoption there. And even to this day, when we deploy UCaaS systems, if we control the network and we put in our edge device, we do offer as a kind of a value add the ability to turn on LTE failover. If the customer wants it, awesome, we'll move forward with that. If not, we still include the SIM. And that way, on a Friday night, when it's busy, game's about to start, and their internet goes out, they can give us a call and we can spin it up and get them up and running. So it's definitely a value add there. But with LTE as well, you've got things like our POTS replacement. POTS replacement will work fine across the LAN, but again, if the internet goes out, it's not going to work so great. So having tools like LTE failover are really, really important. Along that journey, we started thinking, well, what else can we do here? And that's when we started thinking about, hey, can we take a SIM and install it on a mobile phone and make it operate like a OneCloud extension and essentially work just like an extension on your system? So OneCloud Mobile will integrate a business line into an employee's personal phone or a company-provided cell phone using an eSIM or a physical SIM. Depending on the phone itself, there are some older phones that require a physical SIM. We support all the different types of SIMs. If you have I heard a question the other day about a micro SIM. This is essentially the SIM on your phone. A lot of the SIMs that are out nowadays, once they're provisioned, they come in a little piece of plastic, and they've got 4 different cutouts, and you can break it down to whatever size you need. So essentially, we're just adding a phone line to the cell phone itself. Now, if it's a personal phone, we can add that eSIM, and then those calls can go out across the eSIM if they're business related, and then everything personal can remain within their domain. Or if you're completely just converting the cell phone, we replace whatever the carrier is with our SIM, handle all the porting, bring everything over. Some of the things that really step it up, though, with OneCloud Mobile is now it's a seamless experience. The employees will use their native phone dialer for business calls. Now, the 2 scenarios is, one, this is a business phone. All of my calls in and out will be going across the OneCloud SIM or eSIM, and now they're all logged across the UCaaS solution. So this actually helps out a lot, and we'll dig into kind of some of the features and benefits that come along with that. But it eliminates that problem where I don't have to I don't have to open an app, right? So it kind of helps mitigate the UC app adoption, where now when I'm using the mobile phone itself, I'm able to track all of those calls and capture all of that data and keep it within the business. On a personal cell phone, we would install an eSIM, and then you can delineate the contacts. So on a contact level between a business call or a personal call. And when you make that outbound call, it is going to send the caller ID associated with whatever, right? So if it's your business line, it's going to send your DID, or it's going to send the company number out. Or when you make an outbound call, you can also have the option, it's going to prompt you if you want to make a personal call or a business call. You select that, dial the digits, and then the call goes out appropriately. As I mentioned, there's no apps required. So business calls and text route through OneCloud, and it's keeping those communications tracked and managed without changing the normal user's phone experience, which can be a big deal, right? There's no added training. I don't need to show them an app. They don't need to learn all this fancy stuff. And again, we've got folks that are in the service industry. We've got some remote employees. You've got folks that are in sales. We're busy. And sometimes it's just, I want to ask, Siri to make a quick phone call. I don't want to search down an app. So it makes things a little bit easier in that regard. Call and SMS management. So OneCloud provides features like call recording, transcription and summary analysis, detailed analytics, and such for the calls. So since they are going out across the OneCloud trunks and across the UCaaS system, you may feel like you're making a call on your cell phone, but it is operating and acting just like an extension going out across the OneCloud network. We're able to track all of that information and keep it in-house. So you've got all those call recordings. I can look at those summary transcriptions. I can look at the analytics, and it's all within one place. This is important as well. So when maybe you got some folks in the field, you can keep an idea of their calling activity. Are they making outbound calls, even though that they're not in the office, and get a better idea there. But all business calls and messages can also sync directly to a CRM like Salesforce. This is huge. We integrate with most major CRMs. So you're talking Zoho, we're talking HubSpot, Salesforce, ServiceTitan, Microsoft Dynamics, and this is a big bonus add because it's supporting compliance and performance tracking, and it's helpful. So if you've got a service technician that shows up at a customer site and they're supposed to call and check in, well, they make that call. It is automatically logged into the CRM, and you have a record that Tim showed up to do some work on maybe their overhead paging, and he did call before he showed up on site. It gives you enhanced control. So businesses can keep control over their business numbers and can manage communications centrally. And by that, I mean, if you had your in-house business system, you're controlling your numbers on your in-house UCaaS system. But if you have cellular carriers, to make changes to those numbers, you don't have that control, right? You have to reach out to a carrier. You have to make a separate phone call and a separate vendor to make those modifications. With OneCloud Mobile, those numbers actually live within the UCaaS portal itself. So if you need to direct them or move them somewhere, it's not very difficult at all to do. So in cases like an employee turnover or a device loss, an organization can easily redirect or reassign business numbers, ensuring that continuity and security in communications. If you have somebody who leaves or an employee breaks a phone and customers try and call that number, you're not losing that communication. You can easily redirect it. You're not going to lose the book of business that's associated with it. Let's say if this is a salesperson who leaves, you have that flexibility and you're not relying on two touch points. So to kind of recap some of the core features and benefits, you've got the call logging, SMS analytics, and CRM sync. You're automatically able to log inbound and outbound calls and text messages with no manual input. That's a big piece, right? So there's a lot of integrators that you might use out there or some native tools, but when the call ends, the end user is required to do some form of an activity to log that call into your CRM. This can be done seamlessly. So on the back end, when a call ends, it can log the call time, the duration, the caller ID, who spoke to whom, and a link to the call recording directly under the contact. If we're talking about something like Salesforce, that's huge. And then you have access to those call recordings, analytics and sentiment analysis, which you would have never had before on a basic cell phone. And as I mentioned, it logs directly into, like, let's say, for example, Salesforce. Some of the things that I kind of want to pause on this one for a minute and explain the importance of CRM integration. There's a lot of different ways to do it. But today, and with today's technology, CRMs are truly your single point of truth. You're doing a lot of your email communications through your CRM, a lot of your ordering or quoting or deals through your CRM. You're doing other maybe marketing campaigns through your CRM. And all of that ties to a particular customer or particular company. And having the ability to automatically log those touch points without having the end user or employee have to do something can be substantial. One use case our CTO brought up was, imagine that you're an account manager, customer success manager, I think some of them strategic account managers, and maybe you have a big book of business. Maybe you have 200 accounts that you have to manage. And out of those 200 accounts, there's quite a few different people in that company, in those companies that reach out, and maybe they're speaking to your billing team. Maybe they're speaking to your sales team. Maybe they're speaking to your support or service department, or accounts payable. It's hard as an account manager to keep your finger on the pulse all the time. Yes, they're going to be doing their QBRs and they're going to be checking in and making sure that the customer's happy and telling them about new products, but it's hard to be proactive all the time. One example is if you're logging all of those transcriptions, let's just say your calls to your CRM with a summary transcription. I, as an account manager, can create a filter in my CRM of just my accounts. And then I can do a search of communications of maybe just notes or call logs. And I'm looking for the word cancel. So maybe out of my 200 accounts, I've got 700 different potential employees that could be contacting my company. And if I look for the word cancel, I can easily find a conversation where somebody might have called in and said cancel. I can go to that communication. I can look it over, find out what happened, touch base with some of my resources, and then maybe proactively mitigate some churn by having that information at my fingertips. Huge when it's just a cell phone, right? So as a cell phone, all I'm using is my cell phone as my day-to-day. I'm not using apps or any crazy technology. We use this on the regular. Having that logged automatically is a substantial tool to have. Individual data plans are also very, very helpful. If you are converting your phone, your cell phone, just directly, or like a company provided cell phone. In some organizations, ours was one of them, you're going to have a variety of different employees that do different types of jobs. Some of those employees might be doing something that's more construction related, and they don't need a cell phone with a bunch of data on it, right? They should be, maybe they're pulling cable, maybe they're doing drywall. They don't need a substantial amount of data. So you can give them a lower pool of data, but maybe you've got a technician that deals with down systems, and if they need to go on site, they might need to pop a bubble to download some updates for a switch. A lot of business data plans, you're using a shared pool. So you have no way to control what employee uses what data. You have no way to throttle this employee versus that employee. With OneCloud Mobile, it can be bound to a seat. So depending on the particular user, I can say user A, B, and C need the 2 gig and I need 2 unlimited plans. We do have those unlimited plans if needed. We generally scale from 2, 4, 6, 8 to unlimited. This is big because it does prevent abuse. I will say in the past, again, I've been with the company for a while, and we do get company provided cell phones. There have been some folks on maybe the infrastructure team that might want to stream Netflix all night. And they're consistently burning up 10 to 15 gigs of data from that shared pool. And ultimately, I am, as a business owner, I'm trying to always cut costs, keep things streamlined. And maybe because I have these individuals who are abusing that data, I'm paying for a higher package of data than I need to be. So being able to delineate that and kind of craft the amount of data that I assign to a particular phone is huge. So, and this also, as I mentioned, ensures that your power users, your field techs, some of your remote workers, have the data or access to it that they need. As you know, I was a phone tech for a while out in the field. There were many times I'd go on site and I would need to pop a LTE bubble to maybe access some resources or download some files that allowed me to get a customer backup. Number control and routing flexibility. Again, everything is done within the OneCloud UCaaS portal. So instead of having two different carriers, I've got my in-house UCaaS system or on-prem PBX that I can route my numbers there, and then anything on the cellular side, I have to call the cellular carrier. Everything's done within one place. Everything's directed through the OneCloud platform, so you're in full control of your numbers. And even if an employee leaves or loses a device, you have a way to quickly mitigate potentially losing a customer call or even a book of business as an employee leaves. As I mentioned, you can bind those contacts directly to your OneCloud extension. So when somebody leaves, they're not taking, the customers don't have their personal numbers, right? So you're not losing that business, which is pretty important. We do support bring your own device and company-owned devices. So you support both business and the personal, and it's easily done with eSIM provisioning. A personal cell phone can securely handle those calls and texts on a separate trackable line. You can see from this image here, this is just one scenario where I can separate it between every time I get ready to make a call, I get a little blurb at the top of my screen that says, am I going to use a personal line or a business line? Depending on what I select is depending what line that call will go out on. And there's no need to download a UC app. So, at the beginning, I did mention that there was some reluctance or some selectiveness and to individuals using UC apps. A lot of calls that are made on cell phones are not being tracked properly, especially for a business when you're trying to retain all that information and QA. So having this capability is pretty substantial. I do want to touch base on a quick case study. And the case study actually relates to us. Now, as I mentioned, we did evolve utilizing mobile. We found that it's been a very big value add to our customers. We started out, we were utilizing Verizon. Nothing against Verizon, great service, right? But we were a carrier. We're also offering UCaaS and on-prem PBXs, but our techs in the field were using Verizon cell phones, and those numbers we had no control of. Again, same kind of problem. If an employee left or if there was an issue, I've had issues with, I've been up on a lift and I dropped my phone and now my phone doesn't work anymore. You'd have to contact Verizon to make any changes up there. It also tied somebody up in the office who specifically dealt with that particular side of the house. And it was kind of a challenge. As technology changed and we grew, we as an organization wanted to be able to track our calls a little bit more effectively. With Verizon, didn't have that capability. You could go in, you could look at call history, you can see some of that information, but you can't see what happened on the call. What was the summary? What was the sentiment? Do you have an employee that might have been rude to a particular customer? I have no way to prove that without ensuring that I have that logged somewhere. When we made this change inside as an organization, the first thing that our CEO was pretty fond of was we were saving about $2,000 a month by eliminating the third party. When it comes to an ROI or return on investment, a lot of cellular contracts at that time were up to 3 years, and you're looking at an average cost saving of $24,000 a year just for cellular phones. That is huge, right? That's an operational expense that if you can consolidate under one place, you definitely want to take that journey. It was easy for us to deploy. We already had a lot of company cell phones in-house, Yep, there were different generations. So some of those cell phones were receiving physical SIMs, and some are receiving eSIMs. But it was a very, very easy deployment to get everybody up to date and on the right device. For us, it was substantial. It was very, very, very huge. Now we're able to track all those calls, saving a ton of money, and we're not working with two different types of carriers, which is a big deal. Overall, just for us, during that initial phase, we're improving the control, reducing costs. We have a heck of a lot more visibility, and it streamlines those mobile operations. And not to mention analytics, right? So if you want to see some analytics, let's say if you have a salesperson and you want to see how many outbound calls are they making a day, right? I want to make sure that my salespeople are making 40 outbound calls a day. That's how they're going to hit their numbers. That's how they're going to capture that, meet quota. There's a lot of different ways that you can look at that it could be a huge benefit. Lastly, is deployment and setup. As I mentioned, it's a very simple eSIM setup or a physical SIM. eSIMs are supported on a lot of the older phones. There are many of the newer phones don't actually have a physical SIM in them anymore, but we support all of the different types of SIMs that are out there. I had a question the other day about a micro SIM. Do you support a micro SIM? Your SIM is literally just, if you ever pulled it out and looked at it, there's a lot of different ones, but it's just this little bar right here. A lot of these SIMs nowadays, what they come with is they're a single card with a bunch of little punch outs, and they will reduce in size depending on what you need. But there's no training needed for these employees. So when you convert them over, they don't need to learn a new technology to adopt this. It is the native dialer on the phone. If it's an eSIM, the easy cut over there is they're going to receive an email, or they can scan a QR code. It automatically installs that eSIM on the phone, and then at that point, it's just as easy as porting the number over, turning off the old SIM, and you're good to go. So there's not a lot of IT support needed. There's really no training. So the amount of friction there is also much lower. Very simple, as I mentioned, no training. It's effortless to provision those SIMs on those phones. There's no hardware really involved in that. And there's just a ton of different benefits that go along with it. This is great for hybrid environments. I've actually been receiving a lot of communication. One of our members of our sales team actually reached out to me earlier today asking me about some of the cell phone features. They are working in a more rural area. And in that area, there's quite a few businesses that are just two people operating out of a small office. They don't have a business communication system. They're using cell phones. And converting over to something like OneCloud Mobile really helps them elevate to the next level, because now once you have OneCloud and the UCaaS piece into it, you're getting things like call queues, auto attendance, call recording, logging, voicemail. It just provides an overall richer experience. So with that, there's a lot of other things that we can talk about in regards to the mobile technology. But if you have any questions, I'd like to go ahead and open that up. As I mentioned, I am going to try and cut these webinars down to a little bit shorter, about 30 minutes, depending on the content that I'm covering. So at this point, if you have any questions, I would like to go ahead and open this up for questions. You'll notice down here at the bottom, there's a little hand. Raise your hand. One of our moderators will unmute you. And then you'll see this little microphone. Just make sure there's no line through it, and then we can chat. With that, I'll go ahead and open it up. Mr. Mike, you got any questions for me today? Oh, you're muted. Oh, let me actually unmute you there, sir. Where are you at?
Okay, there we go. Yeah, my unmute button wasn't working.
All good.
Okay, so a quick question. If someone adopts this, and it is on a company cell phone, for example, that's being provided by the company, and they adopt this, do they get rid of their current carrier, whether it's Verizon, AT&T, whoever, and they use the new eSIM that's loaded on their phone?
That is correct.
Okay, and they would get the same type of coverage. For example, if they're traveling around the country, they'd pick up. So whose towers does this bounce off of?
Sure, that's a great question. So in theory, we utilize all different types of carriers. The primary backbone would be like AT&T, but like any cellular service, all cellular services is shared and leased somewhere down the line, anyways.
Yeah.
So the service is quite stable and functions just like any other carrier.
Okay, all right.
And if you got anybody who wants to chat about it, I'm more than happy to dive into that. And I think you had some questions not too long ago too about Alert Blast. Feel free to reach out to me if you want to schedule some time on that.
Yeah, thanks.
Eric, I'm just curious, you got any questions? I know I've inundated you for the past couple of days with our meetings. Get you here. There we go. Gotcha. Should be able to unmute now.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I did. Just so that I understand correctly, if somebody has, let's say, Verizon or T-Mobile, and they go with our solution, their T-Mobile service is going to be replaced with our service.
That is correct. Now, the core thing is, let's think about if a customer moves from one carrier to another. They're moving that service over to us, or we'll port the numbers and provide the service, but they need to deal with any obligations that they have with the losing carrier.
Correct. Okay.
Yes.
And then once they move to our service, they can actually manipulate the data pool, if you will, between individuals.
So I'm glad you asked that. So essentially, the way that we scale it is that there is a user seat, and then if they want to blend in mobile, the mobile comes in different blocks that would be assigned to that seat. So it'd either be 2, 4, 6, or 8. So when you went to leverage something like that, you would want to understand the needs of that particular user.
Sure.
Before you say, hey, this is what I'm going to offer you, right? I mean, if you want to go unlimited, go unlimited. But if the company is price conscious, then you really want to focus on trying to be more solution oriented. But if they start out on 2 gigs and they need to scale up to 4 or 6, we can certainly help them get that done. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Any other questions? All right. Well, I appreciate, as I said, all of your time. Thank you so much for joining me today. Eric, Mike, anybody, if you have any questions, concerns, do not hesitate to reach out to me. This meeting is recorded. We will send out a follow-up. Everybody should have my contact information. Do not hesitate to reach out and share this with anybody that you would like. I'd love to help them out. Hope you all have a wonderful day.
Great.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep, bye now. Thank you, Connor.
Yes, sir.
Have a good day.
Great job.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.